What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake, Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully everyone's doing well out there today. We're talking about 5 players that could be potential league winners for you here in fantasy football. Some players that hopefully you either have on your roster or you can go after for a decent price to really give you that potential end of season boost. I see so many people all the time going out there and say, you should go out and get Kenneth Walker. Yeah, but you're going to have to give up something great in order to get him. If you're making a potential league-winning trade, one of the biggest rules you need to follow is not having to give up too much on your own team in order to get something else, right? We're trying to find the greatest value. So these players are actually guys that you can go acquire without having to give up the big studs on your roster currently. We're trying to improve. We're not trying to swap production here. So when we're making trades like this is kind of what we're looking at here. We're looking for teams that are fighting for the playoffs, right? We don't want guys that have huge leads in the divisions for the most part, because as the season goes on, they may rest some players more and more. That could hurt your chances. We want guys fighting for the playoffs. We're looking for players that are benefiting from current injuries. How about decent end of season schedules? I don't put too much stock into this because if you look too far ahead, so much can change over that time span that maybe what you were projecting to happen doesn't happen. And then you made that trade and didn't really help yourself out, but that is something else to look at. And then also, once again, the most important thing, something I've already mentioned here, make trades for players that potentially put you over the top without having to give up the best players on your team. I don't want to see people out there saying, hey, should I trade Derrick Henry? Or should I trade Austin Eckler? Or Nick Chubb? Or whatever it is. We're not trading our stud guys. We're holding on to them. They got us to this point. If you're in playoff contention, it's because of those guys. We're not trading them away now, and I don't care about what other crazy excuses people have out there. So here we go. We're going to kick it off, and the first guy may seem a little bit more higher tier than maybe you were expecting to see in this video, but it's Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens. And really for this one, it's all about perception, right? It's perception. And right now the perception is Lamar Jackson is quote unquote struggling, but he's still quarterback 6 overall on the year. However, has 2 subpar games and a bye week over the last month. That's 3 out of the last 4 weeks that a lot of managers haven't really been able to capitalize off of big Lamar Jackson weeks. That could have put them at a disadvantage at this point of the season. Maybe they're starting to panic. Maybe they need a little bit more safety going forward, and they're willing to part ways with Lamar Jackson because in their mind, he hasn't done anything in about a month. But don't forget, Mark Andrews should be coming back. Throughout this season, he's lost J.K. Dobbins at times. He's lost Gus Edwards, Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman. Heck, Deshaun Jackson was there for like 15 minutes and he got hurt as well. This is a guy who doesn't have a whole lot of weapons around him. However, he's in a division that's fighting for the playoffs. They only have a 1-game lead in the division, and 3 of the last 4 games of this season are against divisional opponents. He's got Pittsburgh twice and Cleveland once. You know Lamar Jackson's going to have to put the team on his back and absolutely try to make a run at the playoffs because he's chasing a fat bag here next year. Lamar Jackson is a big name guy that you can get at a somewhat discounted price if at all possible right now. How about a couple running backs? Let's start off first with Jeff Wilson Jr. of now the Miami Dolphins. In only his 2nd week in Miami, he played 42 snaps, 61% snap share, had 19 touches for 119 yards, and scored a touchdown. He basically matched the best game of the year that we've seen from Raheem Mostert. Now, Mostert has seen his touches start to drop off since the arrival of Jeff Wilson as well. Before Jeff Wilson was a Dolphin, Raheem Mostert was averaging 14.25 touches per game. Now, post-Wilson, 10.5 and only played in 19 snaps in week 11. Now, Miami, they're one of only 3 teams right now in the NFL that have scored over 30 touchdowns. The other 2, the Chiefs and the Eagles. Pretty good offenses, I would say. Now, the perception here is that this is more of a split backfield. But in reality, it's a lot more Jeff Wilson than it is Raheem Mostert. Not a big, huge name. When you look at the schedule, there's some difficult matchups there. You got the Chargers, the Bills, the Packers, the Patriots to end the season. But this is an offense that has already proven that they can score on almost anyone and I love what they're doing in Miami. Jeff Wilson Jr. could be a cheaper running back, added depth that you could really utilize end of season. But we also need to talk about his former teammate as well in Elijah Mitchell of the San Francisco 49ers. Now, there's a reason that San Francisco was okay with trading away Jeff Wilson, and we saw exactly what that was just last week with Elijah Mitchell. He immediately comes off the IR, had 19 touches in a close game against a difficult Los Angeles Chargers team, and even though they have CMC, it didn't really matter. And it really shouldn't be a surprise to us, right? Ever since Kyle Shanahan has taken over the San Francisco 49ers, this has always been a backfield that's dealt with multiple running backs. You go back to 2017, we had guys like Carlos Hyde and Matt Breida. We've had Tevin Coleman, Raheem Mostert. Heck, part of the reason you even know who Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson Jr. are is because the utilization of two running backs in the San Francisco backfield. It's kind of what they do. Now, sure, Christian McCaffrey is going to be the running back one in this backfield, but can you imagine the upside that Elijah Mitchell would have if something were to happen to Christian McCaffrey? We're talking about a guy who's only in his second year, but last year as a rookie, almost had 1,000 yards in just 11 games played. Now you add in the fact that the championship game in fantasy football is against the Las Vegas Raiders, a defense that can't stop anybody, and I absolutely love it. Plus, they're only one game out of the division lead right now behind Seattle. They have something to play for. They're a great up-and-coming offense that's really starting to click right now. Elijah Mitchell could definitely be somebody you could grab a little bit cheaper, and if something happens to Christian McCaffrey, let the floodgates open for one Elijah Mitchell. How about a couple wide receivers? What about Devontae Smith of the Philadelphia Eagles? Now, let's chalk this one up to being somebody who's kind of benefiting from an injury. And I hate to say that. I don't want to say that people are out there excited that somebody else got hurt, but we just lost Dallas Goedert because right now, can't help but feeling a little bit of fancy. There's some banger right here. I'm feeling it. The juices are flowing, but we just lost Dallas Goedert. That's 20% of the Eagles' target share that is now up for grabs in the passing game. We know there's also some slot snaps available. That's really hard to say. Slot snaps available for some wide receivers in this offense. That benefits both A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. We know that Devontae is not going to draw the number one coverage. That's going the way of A.J. Brown. But where I kind of look here for the potential upside, it's that Jalen Hurts has now single-digit carries in 4 straight games. He's running less and throwing more touchdowns. He has 10 touchdown passes now over the last 4 games played, and Devontae Smith is having no issues getting open whatsoever. He's currently wide receiver 6 in the league with an average yards of separation per target of 2.23 yards. That means this dude has over 6 feet of separation between him and the closest defender at the time of targets. He's wide open and could definitely benefit from an increased target share with no Dallas Goedert. The potential ceiling is huge. We've seen that. I'm hoping for a safer floor with those added targets. Now, even though this team is 8-1 in the lead of their division, all the teams inside the NFC East are within 3 games of first place. They're all fighting for something, and even though this schedule isn't ideal, he ends his season, his fantasy season, against the New York Giants, the Chicago Bears, the Dallas Cowboys, and the New Orleans Saints. Those are definitely matchups in which we could see Devontae Smith thrive. How about George Pickens of the Pittsburgh Steelers? There was so much hype this offseason, but really, in season, been pretty disappointing overall. Only has 100-yard receiving game and 2 total touchdowns on the year, one of which was a rushing touchdown just last week. He didn't overly impress in their first game without Chase Claypool either. A lot of people maybe expected a huge bump in targets. That didn't really happen. Needed that rushing touchdown in order to even break 10 fantasy points, but he's staying on the field a lot. He's always out there. And when you look at their end of season schedule, they have Baltimore twice, Carolina, and Las Vegas. Those are matchups against teams that allow over 27 fantasy points per game to opposing wide receivers. One of the best schedules, one of the best end of season schedules for wide receivers is George Pickens. Why am I not talking about Deontay Johnson? The target shares are there. Fantasy owners know that. So the price is going to be higher to acquire somebody like Deontay Johnson than maybe it will be to acquire somebody like George Pickens, who could see the same potential upside. It's not like Deontay Johnson is just out there absolutely killing it. People aren't relying right now on starting George Pickens every single week, but the potential end of season upside with this player and those matchups could be huge, and you could probably get him fairly cheap. So those are the 5 guys. But I told you at the start of the show, I'd probably bring you a little bit of a bonus. Well, here we go. I got 2 guys, 1 running back, 1 wide receiver. Actually, no, I lied. I have 3 guys. Dang, I really went above and beyond for you guys. I got 2 wide receivers and 1 running back. The first running back is DeAndre Swift. And a lot of people super disappointed in DeAndre Swift as of right now. And I totally understand that, right? We thought that when he came back off of injury, we were going to get full force DeAndre Swift, the guy that was really carrying us to victories the first couple weeks of the season. And we haven't really seen that. He's barely touching the football at all. He's not 100% healthy. And a lot of people right now are stashing him on the bench. There could be some teams really fighting for fantasy playoffs that are willing to move away from DeAndre Swift for really pennies on the dollar. And then you can be the one that stashes him on your bench. If he picks it up end of season in matchups against maybe Minnesota, the Jets, Carolina in championship weekend, that could be a great matchup for a lot of people. And then Chicago after that, some great teams to end the year on. And if he's at full strength by that point, you could really benefit from. DeAndre Swift is not somebody you have to give up a stud to get as of right now. You may be able to give up 2 role players, 2 bench players, stash him on your bench, and you never know what could happen, especially with these other 2 guys as well. First one, Van Jefferson of the Los Angeles Rams. We know we've lost Cooper Kupp, and we know we still have Allen Robinson and Tyler Higbee and a mess in the backfield, but Van Jefferson back and healthy could absolutely thrive in this offense end of season. Sounds like Matthew Stafford should be back and good to go, which means we already know he has that chemistry with Van Jefferson. We saw it last year. Van Jefferson was highly overshadowed by Cooper Kupp, but was one of the biggest points in this offense of when they needed a big play. That's where they were going, was Van Jefferson. We saw him score a touchdown last week. They end the year with Las Vegas, Green Bay, Denver, and the Chargers. He's not the number 1 guy, though. Allen Robinson going to slide into that role, and even though we've seen A-Rob struggle, that means we get better defensive coverage going the way of Van Jefferson. He may be on your waiver wire right now. You may be able to go after one of these players in a 2-for-1 and pick up Van Jefferson as well off waivers and stash him on your bench and get 2 of these guys. The potential upside is huge. And then last but not least, it's Kadarius Toney of the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, why didn't I list him earlier? Well, news has already come out that Mecole Hardman has been placed on IR. Not ideal, because what that tells a lot of people is the Chiefs are confident in what they have in Kadarius Toney. And look what we've seen from Mecole Hardman this year. We've seen him, running the football, catching the football, scoring a lot of touchdowns. And Kadarius Toney can really slide in and fill that role almost seamlessly, right? So we could be seeing a huge uptick, not only in touches, but in production as well from Kadarius Toney. I threw him down here at the bottom as a bonus player because I think a lot of people are going to start smartening up really quick to Kadarius Toney. So if he's out there, if he's somebody you can include in a trade, now is the time to do it, because if you let them play too many games, his price tag is going to be astronomical. And then all of a sudden, yes, you're going to have to give up more of your studs in order to get him. The signing of Kadarius Toney, paired with the injury to Mecole Hardman, the injuries to Juju, the injuries to MVS, Kadarius Toney is lining himself up to make an end-of-season run that could be huge in an offense in which we've seen them really know how to utilize those smaller, speedy wide receivers. Sky's the limit for Kadarius Toney here, the end of 2022, and if you can get him, he's definitely a name that I'm trying to acquire right now. But those are going to be the 8 guys right now that I really believe have the potential of being league winners for your fantasy team without you having to sell the farm in order to get them. Remember, it's not always about making those big 3, 4, 5, 6 player trades at the end of the year. We get comments all the time from people saying, hey, I'm 7-3, I'm 8-2. What changes do I need to make? You don't need to make many. You're 7-3 or 8-2 for a reason. It's because you got a good team. Don't feel like you have to break up something that's not busted, right? We're just trying to find little pieces here or there that we can plug and play, put ourselves in a position to where if we need them, they can absolutely carry us to fantasy championships. And that's what this video right here is about. If you appreciate the content, do me a favor, hit the like button down below and consider subscribing if you haven't already. We're on our way to 200,000 subscribers and we want to make sure we do this journey along with you. So hit that subscribe button. I'm going to get out of here for the day. Like I said, hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day, a great week, a great weekend. This weekend of fantasy football, we're on the home stretch to the fantasy playoffs and we cannot wait. And we're hoping that you're going to come along with us. But for now, hopefully you have a great rest of your day, a great week, and we'll talk to you later.